Hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I'll be taking a look at the new edition of ZINE PANIQUE called Dark Side of the Food. Can't tell you who's it's published by because there's not really that kind of information in here. Also going to have a hard time telling you who some of the artists are. There's no pagination in here. There's a list of who all the artists are, but there's nothing that's saying what exactly page they're on. Luckily, I know a lot of these artists, and then some of them have signed their work, and I can infer some of it, but I don't totally know. I do know this title page here and the contents page are definitely drawn by J. Webster Sharp. That's an artist that I'm familiar enough with their style that I can tell. I had to crack up. I don't know if anyone else that watches the channel watches the Great British Baking Show as well. That's something that Tori's hooked me into, but this page made us both laugh. So if you watch that show, you'll know the joke here of Jurgen's bread. Hopefully someone gets that. But J. Webster Sharp's someone who does this really lovely stipple style and always very kind of grotesque, unsettling images, but quite compelling artwork. Also really love the printing on this. There's actually tactility to the ink. I can almost feel each one of the little dots on the page. So that's kind of cool. I think it's a digital print, but it looks really clean and crisp. And like I said, the ink really stands up on the page. So that's cool. Then we got one of the main reasons I was sold on this, buying this as an anthology. You have some work by Banu Prap, who's someone that I've been enjoying quite a bit over the last couple of years, following on Instagram. His book, Dear Mother and Other Stories, really caught me as the first work of a future master, and seeing Banu continue to evolve into using color in his work and using color very successfully, along with the awesome stylization and compositions and abstractions that he gets, the body horror and everything. It all just goes together really perfect. So this is a fairly silent little story here, and you can get a sense of how Banu's art looks in that. Then we get a piece called Creepy Pasta, which I'm not going to show any further than this because it's quite disgusting, and this is by Rachel Suskind. A lot of the work in this is pretty edgy, intentionally edgy. I think that's one of the ethics, the aesthetics of the magazine, or at least this issue being the dark side of the food. There's also a bunch of these fake ads here by M.R. Kern, Mr. Kern maybe. These are spread throughout, but they're in French, so I couldn't read them. But they look like parodies of things. There is a translation guide. On those ones I didn't bother. This piece is by the artist Doc Top. Again, a pretty grotesque story. Some really nice black and white art. Some really good, horrific body horror type of imagery as well. Really, really interesting piece. I think a lot of good artists in this. This one here is by Travis Ramm. Sorry if I got the name wrong on that. And this one's obviously about dogs treating humans as slaves. So there's a little funny social commentary in here. This is a one-page piece here. I think the artist on this one is named Masa, but I'm not sure. Kind of I don't know, a R. Crumb meets mouse type of style in it, which is pretty cool. Then you get another one of these ads. This one's in French, so those ones that I have to read on a translation sheet, it's nice to have it, but they don't stick in my head as much. Another artist that was in this that really incentivized me to buy this is Stathis Cymberlitys. Stathis Cymberlitys and his collaborator Lando have Decadence comics. I quite like their stuff. The only problem with the Decadence comics is all the stuff I've seen from them is pretty poorly reproduced, and since they have such tiny lines, those lines are often turning into halftone dots in reproductions of their stuff, which seems to be an almost intentional aesthetic, but it's so obvious with such thin lines, I usually have a hard time looking at it, even though I really enjoy the art. This is nice because it's actually reproduced with the lines being really solid, and like I said, whatever printing process they used in paper and ink combo, there's a real tactile feel to the ink, so it's a real pleasure to see Stathis's work presented in this format. Really quite enjoy it, and always enjoy the work. This very poetic, Moebius-esque, science fiction type of stuff here. You can see there's a alien feeding type of thing, and then the typical metaphysical type of transformations that you get in the Decadence work. So really enjoyed that one. There is, along with this, a translation sheet because there are some pieces that are in French, some pieces that are in English, and a lot of them are wordless. But for the few pieces in French, there is a little translation sheet, which is a pretty cool thing. This is the artist Noemi Bersol, and you get a kind of another reversal thing here where you have plants eating meat instead of meat eating plants. Again, cool style, like real Graphomania style with it looks like marker coloring on top of it, maybe some color pencil. Another artist that I was very much looking forward to, an artist that I'm seeing in more and more places and coming to enjoy more and more, is Sam Grimberg's work. Sam Grimberg's someone who, I'm really looking forward to collected editions. Trying to get like a whole Sam Grimberg somehow. I don't know where or if that exists yet, but this is an artist I'm definitely interested in. So this is Sam Grimberg's Cookie Crew, and it says the Cookie Crew will return, ? Sam Grimberg's someone who's something about his storytelling style suggestive to me that these things will all kind of exist together in the same world. There's at least like a similar aesthetic all the way through. It seems kind of dirty and punk and undergroundish, but like also really clean and crisp. I know people have told me Sam Grimberg works on The Simpsons, so there's some of that satirical vibe to it, but really enjoy that work. And I think the thing that surprised me most, I don't know the artist's name just because of how the credits weren't tagged right, and because this artist didn't sign to it, and there was a couple artists that, and they don't have the titles either, so they don't tell me which artist is with this. It could be Garrett Young, it could be Glenn Pierce, Noel Freebert maybe. I think those are the ones that I don't know who they are. Baptiste Verreau produced the cover, so I don't know. It's one of those three artists. This piece is really hard to read, but also really fascinating. This, I believe, is a photograph of the artist. I could be wrong. It could be someone he worked with. The initial impression of this is that it's pretty like outsider artist. Just the type of look of it. You're not sure how the pages were even put together. These looks like things that were maybe drawn separately and photographed. They don't look like they're scanned. They look like they're maybe composed together digitally after the fact. So there's a little bit of roughness in the production to it. There are these collages throughout. Here you have, he looks like he's tying a belt, getting ready to shoot up. It's a really dark, bleak story about, it's autobiographical about the author having worked as a chicken catcher for a significant amount of time. I think they said 20 years or so, as someone who just catches chickens to put them on trains to go get killed, and describing the working conditions, the just like really truly reprehensible behavior of a lot of the co-workers, just describing kind of the dregs of society and how the author wound up being in the dregs and finding a place in the dregs. And it's just really intense, and like the descriptions of what's going on in these houses where people are catching chickens and people are fucking chickens in half and people are like jerking off into milk and all these things that are real world. This has happened. The author has witnessed them, and trying to make peace with his life as it is. And this is the job that he's got a particular skill for that needs to happen, but the type of people he's exposed to, it's just really intense. So when I first flipped through this, I was, this was not one of the ones that I was like super excited about. I was looking at like Stathis's work and Sam Grimberg's work and Banu's work, but the story in this one was so riveting to me. It's one of those autobiographical memoir type of things that really exposes me to a part of the world I've never even heard about before. I have no idea about. It's an experience I have no window into other than what the author tells me, and the author does such a good job of drawing me into the world. But it's just such a disgusting world, and it definitely, I think, deserves its place at the end of the book as the longest story because of the title, The Dark Side of the Food. Everyone else is taking that like a little more surreal or, metaphorical, but this artist at the end, I wish I could give the name. is really just giving us the true real world dark side of the food. So altogether, a really, really compelling anthology. I think most of the stories in here landed for me. There's always usually a couple that don't, but all throughout, really great artists, some really great stories, and a good thematic, a theme that's at the core of the book that people circle in a bunch of different interesting ways. So if you can, go out and get yourself a copy. Looking at this information on the back, I'm trying to translate it to French, but I'm thinking this right here is saying that this is a limited edition of 320. That's my best guess. And you would just get this from ZINE PANIQUE is the company, I believe, as well. So definitely go out and get yourself a copy of this. I think it's a really worthy anthology with some really awesome content. Whole new world. 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 For you and
Make sure to like, smash that subscribe button, and ring that bell.